short musical intro. Professor, I'm ready to dive deep, so I have to ask, what exactly is thought?
That is a fantastic question. We tend to think of a thought as this single, solid thing. But what if it's more like a wave that just appears on the surface of the ocean? It's really a temporary pattern that comes from a much deeper, more complex system. In other words, it's a process.
And that idea is at the very heart of what's called the thought seed framework. It basically says our thoughts pop into existence from these tiny, self-organizing units of knowledge called thought seeds. Whoa, okay. Thought seeds. You got to break that down for me, Professor. Let's start from the very beginning. Absolutely, and that's the best way to do it. To really get what thought seeds are, we need to look at what they're built from. The framework imagines the mind as having 4 distinct levels, like a building. So let's start on the ground floor. So here are the 4 levels. We start with these things called neuronal packet domains. We'll just call them NPDs. They build up into knowledge domains, or KDs. From there, the thought seed network emerges. And watching over the whole show is metacognition. So let's walk through them one by one. Okay, level 1, neuronal packet domains, the NPDs. The easiest way to think about these, they're like the brain's projectors. They just take in raw data from your senses, light, sound, texture, and they project it onto the screen of your mind with absolutely no interpretation. Okay, hold on. So you're saying if I see a car, my NPDs are just projecting the raw data, like the shape, the color red, the shininess, but they don't actually know it's a car?
That's it exactly. The meaning, the concept of car, that comes from the next level up, the knowledge domains, or KDs. And you can think of these as enormous knowledge libraries, just holding all the concepts you've ever learned. I think I'm getting it. So the NPDs project a furry shape with 4 legs, and then the KDs are what supply the context from their dog or pet libraries.
You got it. The projectors give us the raw data, and the libraries give us the context. So now for the really cool part. Let's see how these 2 levels work together to create a single conscious thought. And this is where our thought seeds finally enter the picture. So when you see that furry thing, it's not just one idea that pops up. Multiple thought seeds emerge all at once. One is saying, is it a dog? Another one is wondering, is it friendly? Each one is like a little sub-agent competing for your attention. But wait, I only experience one of those thoughts at a time. So how does one of them win? That is the million-dollar question. The theory suggests your mind is like a theater with just a single spotlight. All those competing thought seeds are buzzing around backstage, but only one can step into that spotlight, your conscious awareness, at any given moment. So what decides who wins? Is there some kind of director back there choosing which thought gets to go on stage? Nope, no director. The one and only driving force is the brain's fundamental need to minimize something called free energy. Free energy. Okay, Professor, you are definitely going to have to simplify that one for me. Happy to. Let's just forget the fancy term. Put simply, your brain is a prediction machine and absolutely hates being surprised. So minimizing free energy is just a way of saying the brain is always trying to reduce its uncertainty by making the best possible guess about what's going on in the world. Right, and this creates what we call a winner-take-all dynamic. Each thought seed is basically a competing story or interpretation. The winner, the one that becomes your conscious thought, is simply the one that provides the least surprising explanation for all the sensory data you're getting. It's the best, most stable story the brain can tell itself in that moment. Okay, that makes sense. The brain just wants the story that causes the least surprise. Could you walk me through a real-world example? Let's stick with seeing that dog. Perfect. So step 1 is the raw input from the NPDs, right? The projectors. They're just giving you the data with no labels, a 4-legged shape, some fur, a wagging motion, a barking sound. Then comes step 2, context. Immediately, your knowledge domains, your libraries, all light up. The animal library, the pet library, even the memory library with all your past experiences with dogs. They're all offering up potential meanings. And that brings us to step 3, resolution. A thought seed for wolf doesn't quite fit the friendly wagging tail. A cat thought seed definitely doesn't fit the bark. But the dog thought seed, it explains everything with the least amount of surprise. It wins the competition, and boom, your conscious thought is, oh, that's a dog. Wow. So the best explanation just wins. It's that simple. But what about that 4th level you mentioned at the start, metacognition? Is that the director we were talking about? You absolutely nailed it.
If the mind is this orchestra of competing thought seeds, then metacognition is the conductor. It's that highest level that's monitoring and regulating the entire process, making sure the music makes sense. And this conductor has a few key tools. It can adjust what's called attentional precision, basically deciding what the orchestra should focus on. It also sets goals, which gives certain thought seeds a boost in the competition. So if you're looking for your keys, key-related thoughts are way more likely to win. And it even manages how high the bar is for a thought to become conscious in the first place. That's a lot to process. But it sounds incredible. Has this whole framework ever been tested on a real cognitive process? Like, say, trying to model what the mind does during meditation? An excellent test case. And yes, the creators actually did that. They built a simulation based on these principles, and this 4-stage cycle of meditation emerged all on its own, completely naturally. First, there's a thought seed for breath control. That gives way to mind wandering. Then a meta-awareness thought seed notices the wandering, which then triggers a redirect thought seed to go back to the breath. The model just perfectly mirrored reality. So, when you put it all together, what's the big takeaway here? Well, it's a really fundamental shift in how we see ourselves. Your mind isn't a computer just executing lines of code. It's more like this vibrant, living, self-organizing ecosystem where countless potential thoughts are in a constant battle to create the best, least surprising story of reality. Which, of course, leaves us with one last pretty big question. If everything you experience, your conscious reality, is just the winning thought on stage at any given moment, then who or what is the you that's sitting in the audience watching the show?